Greetings and welcome to Monday Mantra. If you've not seen Monday Mantra before, it is a recorded live stream where I go over business strategies and techniques for the entrepreneur with a heavy dose of real estate. In today's episode, I'm going to be covering how you can leverage content for community, which then translates into business. And that's coming up right after this. Greetings, greetings, greetings. Yes, hello, my lovelies. It is Monday morning, so it is Monday Mantra. I am tickled pink to be here this morning. Getting over a little bit of a cold, so forgive my coughing and my spluttering, but I wanted to welcome you all. Welcome, welcome, welcome. You're tuning in. Hello. Welcome to Monday Mantra. This morning, I am going to be covering a lot of ground, and I want to go over, essentially, the mantra title for today is using content to leverage community, but that's a very big subject, so I'm going to kind of dive down and do this in a bit of an isolated chunk, if that's such a phrase. Wow, I'm peppy today. He takes a cough, he takes a slug, he takes the world. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Coffee, for making this broadcast possible. Okay, so using content to leverage community. This is nothing new, but I want to talk about how we do it kind of like in 2019, 2020. I'm going to start the proceedings by going over a story that I'm sorry, I'm getting over this cough, forgive me. We will soldier on. I was lucky enough to be asked to speak by Gary Vee at Agent 2021 in Miami in January, which I did and I'm extremely grateful for. And it was a wonderful time where I met some really awesome people. And there was one gentleman that stood up at kind of the end of the day and told us his story, which kind of is what prompted me to do this, which was, he said he followed Gary's advice, which, you know, this is typical real estate stuff. He followed Gary's advice, went out to a whole bunch of these coffee shops and businesses and did little videos, as he called them, little stupid videos, and he said he doubled his business in 12 months. I looked this guy up, he was already kicking ass in the beginning, and his business just skyrocketed. So I want to talk about this with you guys because I think it is absolutely friggin' crucial, and I've got 2 or 3 nuggets in here that are just mind-blowingly good, that if you use them correctly, not only will you attract new business, you will galvanize old business. I'm going to dive in and kind of start chomping away at this stuff because there's a lot to get through. So the most important thing you can do for your content, or rather the worst thing that can happen is this. It's Monday morning and it's like, oh no, what am I going to do this week? What am I going to decide? I need to do a whole bunch of posts, and then what happens is we scramble to do it, and then a lot of the posts end up being, you know, a little bit vanilla and a little bit kind of unimaginative. And if you consistently do that week after week after week, your brand, which is what this is branding 101, your brand will feel diluted, it will feel vanillaized, it will feel maybe perhaps a little inauthentic, and the social media audience that are watching your content will figure out that you're scrambling to kind of think what to do for the week. So number 1, you should write this down. Number 1 is create a content calendar. I have a content calendar for everything I do. I plan it weeks in advance. If I'm going to be reintroducing Lattes with Lorimer in a bit of a different format. I'm going to be going on location and interviewing people. And so I'm already in the process of lining people up to interview weeks in advance. So I know that I've got my content covered. You do a business calendar, so you should do a content calendar, because even if you're only pushing out one piece of content a week, Even if it's just one piece of content a week, you gotta make it freaking awesome. And I'm gonna show you how to change that one piece of content into about 10 pieces of content, but that's coming up later in the Monday Mantra. I wanna talk to you now about branding, just for a minute. Branding is something that I am so particular about. I am seeing our industry, this is the real estate industry, changing. You've heard me say this a million times. It's going to the imperial army, which is huge companies gobbling up other companies, consolidation as we call it. There's a lot of consolidation going on. And then there is the rebellion. And the rebellion is this army of boutiques across the country that have such a strong identity. And you as an agent can have a much stronger identity if you work on your brand. A lot of companies don't allow, branding in your own colors. You have to use black and white, blue and white, red and white, whatever the hell it is. In my opinion, ladies and gentlemen, that is the kiss of death, because at the end of the day, your clients don't know which company you work for. And if somebody's joining a company for convenience, but then losing their identity, I think that is a massive, massive mistake. What's up, Noah? It is a massive, massive mistake. Your brand is everything. We are CEOs of our own small businesses. And if our brand just gets absorbed into someone else's brand, then there's no difference. And then if you end up being at a company where they have hundreds and in some cities thousands of agents, and you're not the top agent at that company, and two of you guys go on the same listing appointment, most likely the person that's doing more business than you at your company, if you have the same kind of listing presentation, is gonna get the gig. Which is why I am so fiercely independent and fiercely proud of the rebellion, which I like to call the independence throughout the United States, in all industries. Okay, let's get into the exact strategy of how to leverage your community. In real estate, pretty much your community is either geographic or demographic. Your community can literally be your friends and your family, your sphere as we call it, but it can also be a geographic area. I happen to live in an area of Los Angeles called Studio City, so my geographic area is Studio City. This works for both of these client pools. But what I want to do is I want to break it down, and then you can flip it into working for your demographic crowd after you hear how you do it for a geographic crowd. So, for example, I have mentioned this before many times. There are certain influencers in your neighborhood, right? There are influencers. Now, I don't necessarily mean, young girls doing selfies of themselves charging 50 grand like the Kardashians. No. I'm talking about the new coffee shop that's opened, that's kind of hip and cool, the new restaurant that's opened, the new fashion boutique, the new spa, the new fitness center, the new whatever. In Studio City here, there are a plethora of new businesses. And there's some really cool places, little ice cream places. There's a lot of boutique companies, right? Because retail is going back to boutique. Because shopping malls are finding hard to fill the space because of Amazon, but that's a whole other mantra. So what I would recommend you guys do is this. You find the most influential boutique stores in your neighborhood, and you walk in there, you go in, don't necessarily go in with a camera, but you walk in and you say, hey, this is my neighborhood. I see that you opened. I'd like to do a piece on you. I run a local website, or I'm a local professional or real estate professional in the area, and I'd just like to talk to you about your new place. So if I'm that owner, and I've done this a million times, if I do this and I'm a new business owner trying to break into the community and somebody's offering me free advice, free marketing and free coverage, I'm gonna jump at the chance. Then I would say, I'm going to be very detailed on exactly how to do it. Then what I would say is, you speak to them in person, and then you follow up, or at that first initial meeting, you say, it's going to take approximately 45 minutes for me to film this. I'm going to be doing video, I'm going to be doing audio, and I'm going to be doing stills. I'm going to be doing photographs. It's going to take me about 15 minutes to set up prior to the interview beginning. And then at the end, I'm going to do some still shots. So you've pre-warned them about everything you want to do. And then I'm going to then tell you, so once you then set up the interview, you do the interview, you should be on camera. Absolutely, you should be on camera. It's very easy to do like a 2 or 3 minute little documentary of the local stuff that's happening in the area. And you kind of talk to them about what was their motivation for opening, what are their favorite designs, or if it's, a paint store, what are your favorite colors? If it's a restaurant, what is your signature dish? If it's a bar, what is your signature cocktail? Talk about them, find out stuff that's interesting. Remember, we must deliver content that's interesting. It's infotainment, right? People are watching it to be entertained, but they also want to get some knowledge of things they don't already know. So if there is a signature cocktail at Bill's Bar that just opened around the corner in Studio City, I'm going to go interview Bill and ask him about the cocktail. And maybe if people walk in and say they've watched the vlog, they can get, or watch the review, they can get 20% or get a free cocktail the first time they're in the bar. There's a way to make this a win-win. I'm going to get into that a little bit later as well. So you've shot your interview, right? You take multiple cameras if you can, or multiple phones. If you can't, just take one. It's fine. So you've got your video, you've recorded your audio. If you notice, I have a microphone on here because I'm going to show you through the steps of exactly how to get 10 times more content out of one piece. So you've shot the video so you can do your little Instagram piece for 1 minute. Or you can spread it out and do it for longer. Let me come back to that. So you've shot your video in 16:9, YouTube style, right? It's going to be about 3 or 4 minutes. You can't make it longer than that because it's just going to get boring. Okay, so there's your YouTube piece. Great. That can go on YouTube. Not necessarily right now, but you've got a piece for YouTube. Great. You then take that 16:9 piece and you alter the images so you can use it on Instagram TV. Okay, great. Now I've used one piece into 2. Then I also take my original YouTube piece, chop it into a 1 minute edit, so now I can put it in Instagram main page. Now I got 3 pieces. Then I take the audio that I have recorded of me doing the interview and I turn it into the local podcast. So now I've got 4 pieces of content. And then I take the podcast, I send it off to rev.com, rev.com, and I now have an interview that I can use for written word, that I can put in a multitude of publications. Maybe I can buy a little spot in a local newspaper, not that I believe in paper, or I can market it as an interview. I can do paid advertising through Facebook. I can drop it on Medium. So now I got 5. And then out of that 3 or 4 minute piece or outtakes, I can chop probably another 5 pieces of content. So I've turned 1 piece of content into 10 pieces of content. Here is the trick of how to leverage the community. Don't drop all 10 pieces at once. Spread it out because content is video content and audio content is evergreen. And so what I mean by evergreen is it never goes out of style. So you can maybe drop the original Instagram video this week. 2 months from now, you can drop the YouTube. And then a month after that, you can do the written word. So you're recycling all of this library of content. Now let's get into how to leverage community. So with all of these pieces of content that we've just discussed how to generate, what do? Right? You've got them, they exist, now what? Now you hyper locally target people in the zip codes you live in, or rather the zip code that you want to target. I'm going to say it again because it's really important. If I live, I live in Studio City, the zip code is 91604, so I am going to hyper locally target 91604 for all of this paid content through YouTube, through LinkedIn, through Facebook, through Instagram, And over time, I'm going to put money on all of these pieces of content. Why? So that everyone in 91604 thinks that I'm the authority on what's happening in the neighborhood. Here is where this total house of cards comes collapsing down. If you don't do it consistently. You can't just do one and done. If it's once a month, great. Twice a month, great. Once a week, better. I understand these things take time, but it's consistency, consistency, consistency. And this, ladies and gentlemen, there's one more layer of loveliness on this, which is when you create this content, naturally you tag the establishment that you are covering, right? Then you strike a deal with the business owner in person when you meet them for the first time, which is, if you like the content, I'm going to give you original copies of it, and would you please push it out on your social media pages? Now what have you done? You have doubled your exposure on their dime. Now, naturally, you guys are going to be hitting some of the same people, but if I'm doing Bill's Bar, right, and I cover it as a real estate professional, and then Bill's Bar shows the same piece of video that they're pushing out, this is just galvanizing that you are an authority and that you are able to use content to leverage community. And then what will happen is people are going to start commenting. This is kind of like a micro version of next door that you control. But you gotta put the work in, otherwise it just simply will not work. Boom! There you go, ladies and gentlemen. That is it. That is the play-by-play. That is the play-by-play of how to leverage content for community on this week's Monday Mantra. There was a lot of people that tuned in today. Thank you all for being there. I need stronger glasses. I couldn't read what was being written, but I wanted to say thank you. Thank you, thank you. If you want to send me messages off camera, you can hit me on Twitter at Peter Lorimer. You can DM me through Instagram. You can find me everywhere. And it is my pleasure, as always, with a cough and a splutter, to say thank you for letting me be of service. Until next week, I wish you the most magnificently successful week. It is the last April 15th, 2019 in history. Let's squeeze every goddamn drop of juice out of it, and the same tomorrow. Till next week, I bid you adieu. Toodaloo.